Hello and welcome back. We are so excited to have you with us today. You are listening to the Afro Esports podcast, and we are diving into a topic that is, it's honestly going to define the next decade of the digital economy on the continent.
It really is. We're not just talking about high scores or video games here.
No, not at all. We are talking about a massive collision.
That's the word for it, a collision. It's that classic case of an unstoppable force meeting a seemingly immovable object.
Exactly. So on one side, you have this explosive grassroots youth culture esports in Africa. It's fast, it is digital, and it is hungry. And on the other side,
You have the slow turning wheels of government policy and regulation.
it's a friction point that is creating so much heat right now.
And usually, when we talk about this, it's just people shouting past each other. Gamers are angry, the government is confused or maybe overreaching. But today is different.
Today is different because we are deep diving into an actual blueprint. We've got this fascinating article by Kwesi Hayford titled, How Government Should See Esports, Control Visa's Contribution.
And it really does feel less like an article and more like a manifesto.
It is. It's a structural argument for how nations can stop suffocating this industry and, actually start fueling it.
What strikes me about Hayford's work here is the clarity. He isn't just complaining from the sidelines. He is diagnosing the whole pathology of the relationship between the state and the gamer.
He argues that most governments are just operating under a fundamental misunderstanding of what esports actually is in the African context.
Exactly.
So to set the stage, let's get into the central metaphor he uses. I think it frames this whole discussion perfectly. He describes the African esports industry as a toddler.
It's such a sticky image, isn't it? I mean, if you think about a toddler, what do you see?
Raw potential, unbridled energy.
Yeah, it's curious, it's exploring every corner of the room, it's loud, but, and this is the key part, it's unsteady. It is still figuring out its balance. It's literally learning to walk.
Right, and in this analogy, the government is the parent. But Hayford points out a very specific parenting failure here.
A huge one.
He says the government is hovering over this child, trying to dictate exactly where it places its feet. Don't step there, step here.
All while they haven't bothered to lay down the floorboards.
That's it. That's the core tension. You have policymakers who want to regulate the movement. They look at this toddler and they want to tax it. They want to control the content, license the venues.
But they haven't built the infrastructure that allows the movement to happen safely in the first place. You're trying to write the rules of the road before you've even paved the road.
Or even worse, as the article suggests, you're trying to write the rules of the road when you didn't even buy the car.
Precisely. And this brings us to what he calls the reality check portion of this deep dive. Hayford forces us to just look at the ledger. If we're asking who has the right to regulate, we first have to ask who built this.
And the answer, historically and right now, is not the state.
Not even close.
I really want to break down that ledger because he provides a specific who owns what list that is, well, it's pretty damning for any government trying to claim ownership right now. Let's start with the absolute basics, the games themselves.
Zero government ownership. These are global IPs. We're talking about games owned by massive international publishers, Riot, Valve, Activision. The government didn't code them, they don't host them, they don't own the rights.
Okay, so what about the hardware? The rigs, the consoles, the high refresh rate monitors.
That is all private capital. And we're not talking about corporate investment, usually. We are talking about pocket money capital.
So young people saving up for months, importing parts, dealing with exchange rates.
Yes, just to build a machine that can run a modern title.
And the spaces.
Yeah.
Because usually when governments get involved in sports, they build the stadiums. You see national soccer stadiums, national athletic centers.
Not here. The stadiums of African esports are community-run game centers. They're old internet cafes, or quite often, they're literally bedrooms and garages.
Makeshift LAN setups held together by passion and Ethernet cables.
That's it. There is no state-funded national esports arena in this equation. Not yet.
The one that really highlights the sheer dedication for me is the data, the connectivity.
This is the lifeblood. In a lot of developed nations, you've got subsidized broadband or public Wi-Fi everywhere. In this context, the article points out that the connectivity is paid for by the youth, often by sacrificing their lunch money.
That's a literal transfer of wealth from young people to the telcos, just to keep the ecosystem alive.
Yes.
So when you tally all that up, the games, the gear, the venues, the internet, even the tournament organization, It's all grassroots.
100% community equity. And that leads to Hayford's moral argument. He drops this line that I think should be, I don't know, printed on the wall of every Ministry of Youth and Sports.
What's the line?
He says, control without contribution isn't governance, it's gatekeeping.
Wow. Control without contribution isn't governance, it's gatekeeping. That hits hard.
It does. It completely reframes the government's current stance from, say, protective parent to just a toll collector.
Exactly. If you step in now, after the community has done all the heavy lifting, and your first move is to demand permits or levy taxes, you aren't governing. You are just standing at the gate demanding a cut of something you didn't help create.
It breeds resentment, and more importantly, it absolutely stifles innovation.
It's like showing up to a potluck dinner empty-handed and then trying to tell everyone how to cook the food.
That is a perfect analogy, but the article doesn't just stop at leave us alone, and I think that's a really important distinction to make. This isn't some libertarian argument for zero government.
No, it's a plea for a different kind of engagement.
Yes, it's a pivot. Hayford asks this massive what if. What if governments shifted their mindset from control to contribution? What if they swapped regulation for responsibility?
He's arguing that the government does have a role, but that role is to be an enabler, not an overseer. They need to facilitate the growth, not restrict it. And luckily for us, and for any policymakers who might be listening, he provides a roadmap. He breaks it down into 6 pillars of contribution. This is the real meat of the blueprint.
It really is.
And before we get into these 6 pillars, I just want to say to you listening, if you are finding this breakdown useful, you really, really owe it to yourself to see the primary source. We're summarizing, but the full vision is so rich with detail and passion.
Definitely.
You should absolutely visit QuentisHayford.com to read the full article and see the projects he's working on.
It puts all of this into context with real-world examples from Ghana and beyond, seeing the work on the ground. It really brings these concepts to life. So yeah, QuentisHayford.com.
Okay, let's dismantle these 6 pillars. Pillar number 1, games. Now, initially I thought, how can a government contribute to games if they don't make them? But he's not talking about that. He's talking about infrastructure.
Infrastructure and sovereignty, really. The first major point is local servers. Now, this sounds technical, but it's actually an economic and a competitive issue.
Explain.
Well, if you are a player in Accra or Lagos playing on a server in, say, Frankfurt, you are dealing with latency, lag. You are milliseconds behind your opponent. You are competitively handicapped just by your geography.
So the government should use its leverage to bring those servers home.
Exactly. Governments can negotiate with publishers. They can say, look, we have a market of millions here, put a server node in our region. That levels the playing field instantly.
But there's a second layer to the games pillar, right? It's about content creation.
Yes, moving from just consuming to actually creating. Hayford suggests funding grants specifically for African game developers.
I love this idea. Why should we only play games based on Norse mythology or American military history?
Why not fund the development of strategy games based on the Ashanti Empire or the Zulu Kingdom? It's about cultural export. It's about telling our own stories through the medium of the 21st century.
And it's about owning the IP. If you own the game, you own the league, you own the revenue stream.
He even suggests grants for startups to build games specifically for school leagues. So you create this whole closed-loop economy where students are competing in games built by local developers.
Which segues perfectly into pillar number 2, hardware. We established this is currently a massive cost barrier.
Yeah.
How does the government help here without just, buying everyone a PC?
You lower the barrier to entry through fiscal policy, tax incentives.
Right.
Currently, in many places, a high-end GPU or a gaming monitor is taxed as a luxury good. It attracts heavy import duties. Hayford argues we need to reclassify these things. They aren't toys. They are the tools of the digital trade.
So lower the import duties.
Yeah.
Make the gear affordable.
That's the short-term fix. The long-term vision he proposes is local manufacturing. Why are we importing every single plastic component? Why can't we partner with the private sector to assemble PCs, monitors, and peripherals right here?
That's a huge shift that turns gaming into manufacturing.
It creates a whole supply chain. You need assembly workers, logistics, quality assurance techs. Suddenly, the esports industry is creating jobs for people who don't even play video games. It anchors the value in the local economy.
I love that. It moves the conversation from kids playing games to industrial strategy. Let's talk about pillar number 3, spaces. And he's very specific here. He's not just talking about building a generic cyber cafe.
No, and he's not talking about some massive 20,000-seat stadium that sits empty 300 days a year either. He introduces the concept of the Esports hub.
The list of facilities he envisions in these hubs it's wild. It sounds like a tech campus.
It is a tech campus just disguised as an entertainment center. He lists things like e-classrooms, streaming studios, creative design labs, editing workstations.
And my personal favorite, drone flight arenas and robotics tournament spaces.
It's so forward-thinking. Imagine a space where a kid walks in because they want to watch a FIFA tournament. They buy a ticket, get some food, which creates revenue for a local business, but then they walk past a glass wall and see someone editing 4K video.
Or they see a team programming a drone. It's the collision effect.
Exactly. You're exposing them to adjacent technologies just by being in the building. It destigmatizes the whole environment. It's not a dark room with no windows where you waste time. It's a multi-purpose economic zone.
A place where you consume content, but you're also given the tools to produce it.
Precisely.
Let's move to pillar number 4, data. This is the invisible infrastructure. We touched on the lunch money problem. What is the policy fix?
So there are 2 levels here. First, collaboration with the telcos for specific gamer bundles or youth-focused data rates. But the more radical proposal in the article is the creation of a national esports youth empowerment fund.
Okay, and how is that funded?
Hayford proposes a mandated 1% industry contribution, essentially taking a tiny sliver of the massive revenue generated by data usage, much of which is driven by these young people, and funneling it back into the ecosystem.
It's a reinvestment loop. The telcos profit from the gamers, so they contribute a fraction back to grow the gamer base, which in turn consumes more data.
It's just smart business. It ensures that the ecosystem is sustainable and not just extractive. It stops the lunch money sacrifice from being the only funding model.
Okay, pillar number 5 is programs. This feels like the software that runs on the hardware we've just been talking about.
Yes. This is about structured activity. You can have the servers and the buildings, but you need something like a National Youth Esports Empowerment Program.
Right.
But here is the nuance. It's not just about finding the best player. It's about tying competitive play to skill acquisition.
This brings us back to that idea of the Trojan horse.
Right. You use the excitement of the tournament, the glory, the trophy as the hook. That gets them in the door. But to participate or to organize it, you are learning coding, you're learning content creation, event management, AI literacy.
So the government's contribution isn't just hosting a cup. It's certifying the skills learned during the cup.
Exactly. It's validating that the kid who organized the Discord server for the tournament actually has project management skills that are employable in a bank or a logistics firm. It's about translating gamer skills into job market skills.
Which leads us to the final and probably most controversial pillar for some listeners. Pillar number 6, education.
The final frontier, putting video games in schools.
I can just hear the parents now. My kid spends enough time on that screen. Why would I want the school to encourage it?
And Hayford anticipates that pushback. He is very clear. This is not about replacing physical education or PE. He is not saying stop running and start clicking. He is saying we need to complement PE with what he calls mental education. Me-E.
Mental education. Unpack that for us.
Well, think about the cognitive load of a high-level esports match. You have strategic thinking, resource management, team coordination, communication under pressure, cognitive reflexes. These are mental muscles.
So just as PE trains the body, ME trains the digital mind.
That's the idea. And it serves as a gateway, right? It's not just about the game itself.
A massive gateway.
If you're playing Minecraft, you are learning logic gates and architecture. If you're optimizing a character build in an RPG, you're doing statistical analysis. The goal of the education pillar is to formalize those links, to use gaming as the entry point for STEM, STEAM, and robotics curricula.
So when you step back and you look at all 6 of these pillars, games, hardware, spaces, data, programs, and education, the picture that emerges isn't really about games at all.
That is the ultimate realization. This is not about entertainment. This is a national development strategy. Kwesi Hayford is arguing that if you treat esports as a distraction, it remains a distraction. But if you treat it as a development vector, it becomes a pipeline.
A pipeline for what, specifically?
Future-ready employment, digital citizenship. I mean, the future of work is remote, it's digital, it's creative. The skills you learn running an esports team are the exact skills you need to thrive in the 21st century global economy.
There's a quote in the article that really captures this urgency. He writes, Ghana, Africa, the future we want. It's being played, streamed, and competed into existence right now by our young people.
It gives you chills because it's true. The future isn't some abstract policy document sitting on a minister's desk. It is happening in real time in those internet cafes. The only question is, will the institutions help accelerate it, or will they try to slow it down because they don't understand it?
And the core request to those institutions is so simple. The youth need partnership, not permission.
Partnership, not permission. That is the mantra. Stop making them ask for the right to exist. Stop creating permit barriers. Start asking, how can we help you scale this?
So we're bringing this full circle back to the toddler metaphor we started with. The goal is to stop hovering, stop criticizing the stumbling steps, and just focus on building the floorboards.
Be the floor builder. That's the takeaway. If you build the floorboards, the tax breaks, the connectivity, the educational integration, the child won't just walk. They will run. They will fly. And crucially, they will take the national economy with them.
It's an optimistic vision, but what I like is that it's practical. It's not just hopes and dreams. It's tax codes and curriculum updates and infrastructure deals. It's stuff that can actually be done.
It's actionable. And that's the difference between a complaint and a blueprint. It's why this article is so important.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with the final provocation from the source material. It's a question that Kwesi Hayford poses, and I think it applies to everyone listening, whether you're a government minister, a community leader, or just someone who cares about the future of tech.
The question is, how can your government institutions shift from controlling esports to contributing to it?
And I'd encourage you to broaden that out. Look at your own local context. Maybe it's not esports. Maybe it's AI. Maybe it's the creator economy. Are you and the institutions around you trying to control these emerging forces, or are you contributing to their healthy growth?
Are you a gatekeeper or are you a floor builder? That's really the choice we all have to make.
Be a floor builder. Listen, we cannot recommend the source material enough. There is so much more depth in the original text.
Yeah.
You really have to go to kwesihayford.com. Connect with the author, see the projects, get inspired.
Absolutely. The insights there are just invaluable for anyone looking at that intersection of policy and technology. That's kwesihayford.com.
Thank you so much for listening to the Afro Esports podcast. We hope this sparked some ideas and maybe gave you a new lens to view those kids in the gaming center. They aren't wasting time. They're building the future.
Indeed they are.
As Kwesi Hayford signs off in his article, and as we will sign off today, more Vim.
More Vim.
Catch you on the next deep dive.